All right, so this is home base. So this is the basement, and the computer is down here with the racing rig and a quad HD ultra wide, and just running Ethernet, basically just Ethernet and power and video out of this. And then I've got a USB hub at the front, and then mouse and keyboard standing by. But this is just always ready to go. So whenever I stream, whenever I stop streaming, it automatically reverts the display back to this display at the right resolution and everything. So whenever I come down here, I just turn the monitor on and we're good to go. Okay, so here I am in my office, and this is where the cool stuff starts happening. So I've got a quad HD 144 hertz refresh rate screen here with a soundbar for audio, gaming mouse, gaming keyboard, all plugged into a Thunderbolt 4 dock, which runs to my MacBook. And on my MacBook, I'm just running two pieces of software. The first is called Virtual here. This is a USB server. So any USB devices I have plugged in, it will send them to my computer as if they were plugged into the computer. So since the gaming peripherals have special software that lets them do more, this lets them act as if they are plugged directly into the computer. And it also reduces latency and just makes the mouse feel more accurate. And then I'm running Moonlight, which is the streaming client. And as you can see here, I've got 4 different profiles, one for each of my devices that I stream from. And when I select one of these, it automatically changes the video settings on the computer to match the device I'm streaming to. So in this case, I'm streaming from my desktop. So we were just downstairs and it was set to an ultra wide 21:9 monitor. But if I say I'm connecting from my desktop, then as you can see here, if we go to display settings, it's automatically switched to 2560 by 1440, which is a 16:9, and it's up the refresh rate to 144 hertz. So now I've got nice smooth mouse action, just as if I were plugged into this monitor directly. And then here you can see my Virtual Here USB client, and you can see that it automatically started using, so the only manual step I have is I have to close this at the end of every session on here so that I can have my peripherals back on the Mac. But I do have this set to launch automatically when I connect from the desktop, and I have it set to automatically grab the mouse and keyboard. The other things I don't want it to use, the audio I don't need it to use because it already outputs the audio. So, oh, and the Xbox controller, I should set that to auto use. There's no reason not to. Okay, but that's all good. And then when I'm done, like I said, all I have to do is I have to quit Virtual here so that I can get the mouse and keyboard back on the Mac. Then I have to wait a few seconds as it gives me them back. Once I see I have mouse back, it should only take another second. This is the most hassle part of it. Okay, so now I have the mouse back on the MacBook and I can disconnect with the keyboard and tell it I'm done. Okay, so that's everything on the Mac. All right, so here in the front room, I've got my 48-inch OLED, and this room's pretty messy because this room had a totally different purpose a few days ago. But I've got 4K OLED, which is the best panel in the house. So perfect for, I've got blacked out curtains and I can shut the door so this room gets super dark. And so it's great for like cinematic games like Uncharted or watching movies as well. It's got a soundbar, Samsung soundbar with a sub. And what I've got plugged into this is just an NVIDIA Shield, which is a streaming box like an Apple TV or a Roku, but it's got the same chip as the Nintendo Switch. So it's really fast for doing all that stuff. And running on, of course, I've got some TV apps so I can stream movies if I want to, but running here is Moonlight. So it's the exact same client that I just showed on the Mac. But here I'm gonna say I'm using the TV and it's gonna connect. And so here we don't have the USB server. You can run a USB server on the Shield, but the USB protocol from Moonlight is so good now for controllers. It does vibration and all that. I haven't found a reason to. unless I wanted like slightly lower latency, but I just don't think there's much point. Because this way, if you're using virtual here, you can't use the controller to control the box. So you have to use the remote. This way you can use the controller to control the box and then to control the games. So as you can see here, it's HDR. So now it's 4K HDR. It made that change without me having to do anything. And it automatically launched Steam Big Picture. So I don't have to faff around with like having a virtual mouse or how do I open games. It just takes me straight to Big Picture. And it's like logging into a console. It's like turning on your Xbox and choosing a game to play. Pretty much exactly the same experience. Trying to think if there's anything else to show with this one. The cool thing with the Moonlight now, they changed this a few months ago, but you actually get vibration through the controller, which is nice. So really the only reason I would use the USB server from here is if I wanted to use an Xbox controller or a PlayStation 5 controller for games that support their special features. So like if I wanted the haptic feedback on the PS5, or if I wanted the rumbly triggers on the Xbox, I would need to use the USB server, but that's still just turn the USB server on, plug them in, and then it treats them just like they're plugged into the computer. So super simple. All right, and the last one to show off, I'm back in the office, but the last one to show off is the Logitech G Cloud, which is a portable streaming platform. It's like a Steam Deck with just a low power cell phone chip, because all it's really used for is streaming. So you can see here, exact same UI. I've got Moonlight on here, but I'm gonna tell it I'm on the Logitech. Just make sure I have that selected. And same thing as before, on the Logitech, it keeps 4K resolution because I find it easier, like just for certain games that don't like changing resolution, it's easier to just render in 4K across all those different platforms. Like a Dragon, do we have? What are we doing here? There we go. Like a Dragon is a good example of a game that I might play on the TV or I might play on the handheld. And so if I set it to 1080p for playing on this, then when I launched it on the TV, it would be at 1080p. So it's much easier to just tell Moonlight that this is 4K, and then it just downsamples it for the 1080p panel. And then the other thing that happens automatically besides launching Steam Big Picture is it turns off HDR, because this is not an HDR display. If I had in Steam OLED, then I could keep HDR on, but I don't. But this is still a really nice panel. So there you have it. I can play. It's essentially like having the same computer in any room in the house, and I can just decide what kind of game do I want to play. Do I want to play like a shooter or a strategy game where I need mouse keyboard? Do I want to play like a cinematic Uncharted game on the OLED in the front room in the dark? Or maybe I just want to chill and play, just grind some levels in like a Dragon while I'm watching soccer or endurance racing or something like that. So this is pretty exciting for me because I have spent like the last few years trying to build a setup like this. And I think finally, like, I had the combination of having all the different hardware I needed, and also the technology's gotten to the point where it all comes together really nicely.